Hi everyone, welcome to another beautiful and exciting, enchanting episode of Ignite Entrepreneurs. Ignite Entrepreneurs is for young entrepreneurs to listen to Black entrepreneurs in business in Kamloops, listen to their story and find a little bit of wisdom in there. Today we have a very beautiful lady, yes, very smart, very intelligent, very I would say she will push till she gets it done. Her name is Sherry. Sherry, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jan. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. You look gorgeous.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Tell us, Sherry, where did life begin for you?
So I'm from West Africa, Ghana, to be precise. And I, like most African, cultures, I grew up with a very big family. So I had, my parents, I have like 4 siblings and extended family. So we lived in the eastern region of Ghana in a town called Kosovic. And that's where I grew up most of my childhood. And then I went to boarding school in a different town. And after that, I went to college, also in a different city altogether. But the very first time that I was really far away from my family was when I moved to Canada. That was in 2012. I can't believe it's already 12 years since then. I feel like it was only just yesterday. I was getting lost in downtown Calgary trying to find my way back to the train station because all the streets look the same. So my background for my first degree in Ghana was in geography and rural development, and I minored in economics. And so that kind of set the path for me to go into like city development, city planning, and things like that. So I applied to different universities, mostly in the United States. And then a few in Canada. I got admission in almost all of them, but I was looking obviously for financial assistance. And most of the universities in the States did not have that option. University of Calgary was one of the few institutions that offered financial assistance, so that was an easy decision for me, and I'm so glad I came because I love Canada. I first landed in Calgary. I was there for about 6 years. I met my husband within a year of arriving in Canada. He was a student at the university as well, and my first job was at the cafeteria for the university, and he used to come there, and we started talking, and we started hanging out, and the next thing we know, we're just in a full-fledged relationship, which was amazing. We just, got to know each other. He took me to BC because he's from Aldergrove in Langley here in BC. So one of our first trips together was to go visit his family. I fell in love with BC, like right away. Just the landscape, the people. It was very similar to where I grew up as a child. And so I knew there and then that I wanted to move to BC. So I told him, I was just like, when we're done with school, we're moving to BC. So that was exactly what we did. And that was in 2018. So we got married in 2017 in Ghana. So his parents and sister and cousin came with us to get married in Ghana. And then we came back, had a reception for our friends and family in Calgary, and then drove to Kamloops the very next day. So we were in Calgary for about 6 years, and then we've been in Kamloops for about 6 years as well. So
there's so many parts of your story that I would have loved to say. Let's talk about this, particularly with the marriage.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of videos on social media where you have white people going back to Africa.
Yes.
They dress in the African.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Was it the same?
The same. It was the same because we have the traditional wedding in Ghana, we have, it's like the wedding is a whole weekend affair. So on the Friday, you have the traditional wedding where you dress up in, African Ghanaian outfits and fabrics. And it's a customary event, ritual. So technically the husband is coming with his family to ask for the, my hand in marriage. And so they line up with gifts and stuff. So they were all dressed and they all look so wonderful. And we have like a really good video that I can share with you at some point. And so we just had that. And lots of dancing, as you know, Africans like food and dancing is our thing. So there was a lot of, so much celebration, so many people that I haven't seen in years. And it was just it was the best time of my life, really.
Two main questions. Did your husband dance, and how did they react to chili? I know they don't like chili. He's actually pretty good. So he's Croatian. Oh.
And I don't know if that says anything, but he's actually pretty good with spicy food. He's actually better than me because I've had instances where we both eat the same thing and I get like food poisoning or some kind of reaction. He's completely fine.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So he was really good. And dancing, he did his best. He's not the best dancer in the world, but and he's a very shy, introverted guy. So, but that day he was just, it was his day. Yeah, he did his best. He danced. It was just a lot of celebration. His sister, cousin, who was like the life of the party, he also was very into the whole making so many friends and dancing and just having such a great time. So it was an amazing time. Great.
Now let's back it up a little to growing up, because I know the origin. They say the kids' brains are formed to a very large extent when they're young. Were there any activities or were there any inspirations that, when you were really young, what kind of like made you start thinking about business in that line?
So my parents, my dad worked for the government, and in addition to that, he had a whole bunch of entrepreneurial ventures that he undertook. He's the most hardworking, most committed. If you think I'm relentless, like, you should meet him. He's a fighter and he doesn't stop. And he's 60, 65, in his 60s, but he's still going pretty strong. And so he is my main inspiration for not only for like starting my own business or anything, just in life in general. He pushes us to be our best. So I grew up around entrepreneurs. Because of that, my mom also owned her own business. She was a homemaker, so she was a housewife for a very long time. But when we were all grown and going about boarding school and all of that, so she started her own business selling like canned goods and stuff like that. And so entrepreneurship has always been a part of my family, my culture, my upbringing and everything. But even at that point, I wasn't really thinking of, because I was too young, I guess, at that point. But growing up and, having to dive into the work-life balance and I worked for a long time in a regular job. And but I guess it always stuck with me the way that at some point, my dad is now retired and he's working, he's in his own business. And it's just like seeing that freedom. There's a little bit of freedom in that, there's flexibility. And I also met a lot of people, here in Canada that, would talk to me about, financial freedom and taking a little bit of control of your life. And so that was also a bit of an inspiration for me. But I would say that my greatest inspiration to do anything in life, including having the courage to pursue my own business, is my dad and my mom as well.
Would you say then that parenting usually has, a very strong influence on what the kids become?
Absolutely.
Because some people would say, "Oh, my dad was against music. I kept going." So how would you say that parenting and the kids' future? What would you say about that?
I think there's a very strong connection between the type of parenting and the type of parents you have and how you turn out. I think because, like you said, as a child, you're developing, you're looking, the first adults or grown-ups in your life are your parents. And so whatever, if they inspire you to reach for the stars, if they, they're there for you every time, you get that courage and that, strength to go after things that even, you might not think that you have the ability to. So I think for sure that parents do have a huge influence on how, their kids turn out, who they end up being. And I mean, all my siblings will attest to the fact that our dad has a very strong influence in our lives. Like, I wanted to be a lot of things when I was little. I wanted to be a stewardess, like a flight attendant. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a lawyer. But my dad, I don't know if Nigeria is the same, but in Ghana, like our parents, especially our dads, have a very strong say in our path. So even going the planning way was, something that my dad like pushed me towards and encouraged me. And I'm glad he did, because I'm so grateful for the way my life turned out and where I am today. And I know that it's every decision that I made because of his encouragement that has brought me this far. Yeah.
Well, how were you as a child? I'm really curious. Were you very stubborn? Or were you very quiet?
Not quiet. I'm actually more shy now than I was very much an extrovert. I'm very much like my dad, and my mom is kind of the opposite. She's very quiet, passive, shy. I was a bit stubborn when going through the teenage rebellion age and just fighting your parents every step of the way. But I think it's there was a lot of discipline in my home. My dad was he's in the army, right? He was in the army, and so he was very strict with us. And we're also Catholics, like we're raised in a Catholic church, so there's a lot of like strictness and rules and stuff that you have to follow. But of course, as a teenager, that made you want to, disobey them the more, right? Yeah. So like sneaking out, with your friends.
You snuck out with friends?
Yes, I did. I did. Like, oh my God, I could tell you stories. But I think because he knew exactly kind of how to parent us, he understood, going through the different phases in life. When he needed to be patient, he was. When he needed to be really strict, he was. And so that eventually shaped all of us to be the people that we are today. But like everybody else, we all went through phases where we were just difficult or easy, depending on, the situation. So,
when you came to Canada, how was it settling down? Because I know that transition is always a kind of culture shock.
Yes.
How was it settling down?
It was hard. It was really hard. That was the first time in my entire life that I had been that far away from my family, that I couldn't just get in a car and drive 3-5 hours to go see my parents or go see my family. It was really, really tough. And I landed in Calgary, like I said, in August. So it's, Calgary has like different weather from BC. It starts getting cold at the end of August, September. And anyways, cold in my, opinion, coming from a very like hot and tropical country. Yeah. So, and then I remembered feeling very lonely. Yeah. Like I had friends and I had some family members, but it just felt really different. One of my first experiences in Canada was I was on the C train going to school, and it was in the morning, and it was silent in the train. Nobody was talking to each other. People had their earphones in, they're reading their book. Like nobody's making eye contact. Like we're standing like this because the train was really packed. We're standing, you're standing this close to somebody, but like everybody's like avoiding eye contact. Nobody's talking to each other. And it was in that moment that I realized that I am in a completely different place, cultural wise, because in Ghana, when you sit on a public transit, you're talking to the next person like you've known them your entire life. You're talking to them about sports, politics, and it was just such a very profound moment for me. And I just realized that, I'm not in Ghana anymore. This is my new path. And so that kind of helped me to embrace the difference. Yeah. The weather was a challenge. like I said, I would get lost all the time because all the streets and all the houses look the same. It was really hard, and there were moments where I was just like, I want to go back home. I can't, do this anymore. There was a lot of drama with school and, friends that you're making. So for the first 6 months, it was really tough. But I think once I embraced the fact that I'm in a different place, and again, where, your parents have done so much to get you to this point, you don't want to disappoint them, right? And so it's just like, okay, even though I'm struggling and I'm not very happy, I still have to give my best in order to make them proud. And so that is what pushed me to keep going. And 12 years later, here I am.
Wow. Stories of integration, the big transition, the culture shock. Did you get any support from home during this time, during this transition time?
I don't know how I would have survived without support from my parents, my siblings. My dad obviously was the one that was paying for everything, my tuition, my rent, and everything. So I don't know how I would have survived. And then back then, you couldn't work. This was 12 years ago. You couldn't work within the first 6 months. Those were the rules at that point. And so for 6 months, I didn't have a way to make any income. So having that support from my dad was extremely important. At some point when I started getting a job, then he stopped, paying for rent. He was still paying for my tuition because international student fees are no joke. So, but yeah, no, I had a lot of support. I had a lot of friends back home that I would, talk to, video chat with. Thank God for, Skype. At the time it was all Skype, no longer Skype, but at the time it was Skype, just texting with friends on WhatsApp. And my brothers and sisters, like, it's just, even though I was so far away, I was still very much connected to my family back home. And I did make some great, friends and family here as well, that fellow Ghanaians and fellow Black people that I met. I mean, I plugged into a church and just, slowly transitioned into that. But I did get a lot of support from my family back home.
I just wanted to track that story a little because I know most of the people that may be watching this show may be in that transition phase, and stories of encouragement just make them see that people survive. Yes, people go through the same thing.
Absolutely,
and it's possible for them to survive as well. In terms of business, with this culture shock, you met your husband. How did the idea of business come about for you in Canada?
Before I respond to that, I'm just going to go back to people that are new to Canada that are, transitioning. One of the people that was a huge part of my move to Canada was an uncle of mine that lives in North Carolina. And I remember, I was so anxious and I was going to, I was missing my family. And then he told me, he said, write a letter of how you're feeling, like who you are right now, how you're feeling, and hide it somewhere. And then 10 years later, read the letter and compare it to where you are today, so that you see, the growth that you've experienced. And that's what I want to tell people that are going through this transition, is that Canada is a wonderful place to be. There's just so many opportunities, and there's just so much that you can learn. There's diversity and just wonderful things about this country. And so if you're going through a tough time, everybody, I think most people who move to a different country go through that. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You just keep going.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. That's more like writing memoirs of your current experience.
Exactly.
In fact, even before 2 years, even in the next 6 months, if you go back and
and you read it, was just like you've changed so much. So much has happened. Yeah.
Exactly. It's important to keep memos. Maybe keep a diary.
Exactly.
And track your growth. The next generation will read it and find it very, very look at what Grandpa went through. Really, he cried.
Exactly.
Grandpa cried.
I know.
So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing.
For sure.
So
back to your question about business.
Back to the question: How did business. Sneak
into the whole
into life in
Yeah.
Kamloops.
So I'm a real estate agent here in Kamloops, and
The best?
I would say the best. No, I love being in real estate. It's the best decision I made career-wise, for sure.
Yeah.
So my husband's mom, my mother-in-law, she is in real estate. She's been in real estate for a very long time. And so when I first met them, I got to know what she does for a living. And I remember, I seem to recall her saying, like, you'd be really good at real estate because you're so outgoing and friendly, and you know, you like people, you like to meet people. But this was in 2013, 2014. I was still very new to Canada. I was trying to figure out my life. I was working on my master's, so it wasn't on my radar at all. But, you know, every time we would go visit them in Aldergrove, she would take me to, you know, open houses and to showings, and she would share her experiences with, you know, clients and people that she's meeting and working with. And I was just like, oh, this sounds so wonderful. Like, it sounds like such a good, you know, job, like business to have. Yeah. So, I mean, still, it took a good, because I got licensed 4 years ago, 4 years ago. So it took a while for me to come around to the idea, but I knew that I wanted to have my own business. I had explored other ways of having my own business alongside, you know, working, because in Canada, you know, at first, you need to keep working to pay your bills.
True.
There's no two ways about that. So even though I was exploring business opportunities and stuff, I did a bunch of things with like online marketing and all of that stuff, because I really wanted to have that freedom and that, you know, flexibility with my life and be my own boss and all of that stuff, right? So come 2020, I was working for the city of Kamloops at the time. COVID hit. And I was working from home most of the time, right? And so my mother-in-law is just like, you know, you're working from home, you have a little bit of flexibility. Why don't you, on the weekends or after work, just sign up for the real estate course, you know, take the classes and see what happens. So I was like, okay, fair enough. You know, we're stuck inside anyways, right? You can't really go anywhere. So I did exactly that. And I got licensed. And I've never looked back. Like I did real estate part-time for a year, and I realized that I just loved it so much. I wanted to give it my full attention. So I, you know, quit my job at the hospital at the time. I know I've had so many jobs at the hospital, and I went full-time into real estate in 2022, and it's just amazing. I just love it so much. It's so different from what I've done. It combines everything that I love about, you know, working. It's meeting people. It's challenging. You're always having to, you know, think on your feet. It requires a lot of hard work, and it's very rewarding because it's such a big decision for people, and it's such a big financial investment, because I think buying a house or selling a home is one of the biggest financial, you know, endeavors for most people. I can't say for all people, but some people are very, you know, wealthy, but for most people it is. So being a part of that is very meaningful for me, and having that kind of impact, even if in a very small way, is really important. So that's kind of my journey from, you know, prior to that, I worked in different places. I worked at the University of Calgary as an advisor for the education program, and then when I moved to Kamloops, I was an advisor again for social work. Okay. I worked for the city of Kamloops, to Royal Inland Hospital, and then finally at my current.
What a journey. So what was your master's in?
So my master's was in urban planning. Okay. And it's very, you know, provincially specific. So I did my master's in Calgary, so there was a lot of focus on things that I feel like if I had done it in BC, it would be different. I think BC is, you know, a little ahead in terms of environmental awareness and stuff like that. And so my background was in that. So it's basically design, so designing cities, designing, you know, formulating policies that, you know, guide city development. And things like that. There is, you know, environmental aspects to it, but it wasn't really a huge feature in my program. And yeah, so it was a really good program. I got to meet so many wonderful people. I made really good friends. I'm not in touch with most of them, but that's life, right?
Yeah, true.
So that's what my background was in. And then I didn't really work in that until I got to Kamloops. When I got my job at the city of Kamloops, I was in the sustainability division. So we were, all about how to make the city more sustainable, what projects and policies and stuff that we can put in place to reduce our carbon footprint and greenhouse gas emissions and stuff like that. It was a really amazing time. I enjoyed that job really very much, and I have enjoyed most of my jobs. I want to say.
You have that passion, you have that luminance, you have that positive energy. By the way, she's the president of the African
Yes.
So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. But business has been going on. Has there been challenges? Has there been times? Because you say you love it, and people doing business.
It's not all that.
Has there been times that you felt like maybe I should do something else? Like it's not going to work.
Of course, because it's a commission-based business, so you only get paid if a client, purchases a home and sells a home. So there's that, anxiety around, oh my God, if I don't get paid, I don't have, But I don't think I've ever had, and there are challenges for sure, because you're working with people.
Yeah.
You're working with clients, you're working with other agents in a very, sometimes tense situation, right, with your clients and everything. So I've had some challenges, but I don't think I've had challenges to a point where it makes me want to change my mind about being in this field, for sure. Like, it's just such a different career, like such a different field. And if you understand that there are so many different types of people out there, and you're exposed to that. So it's really the only thing that you have control over is how you react to things that happen to you in a line of work. And I think for me, it's just like I make sure that I do my best. And then if that doesn't, correlate with what, the other person that I'm having a negative influence or a negative interaction with, then it's not meant to be. So there has been challenges for sure, but nothing big enough that would make me change my mind about being a real estate. Yeah.
I think your vision, your passion is so strong. So no matter the waves, the storms.
And it's like that with everything else. Like no matter what you do, you're going to run into challenges. I think, yes, being passionate about what you do and loving what you do is important, because even when you experience those challenges, it just, it's just a bump on the road. You just overcome it and then you keep moving.
Yeah. Okay, we've got to that point where you become a professor. Where,
oh dear.
The point where you give us five things, or tips, or principles, or anything, or rules, or guides, anything.
Yeah.
But 5 things that people in this field who are thinking, maybe I should do a business sector, whatever.
Yeah.
What are those 5 things? You can take it one by one.
Sure. Yeah, I think that being in real estate is all about people.
Yeah.
It's really all about people. And so for me, some of the guiding principles that I employ to work is, first and foremost, is to care about helping people is essential. If you care about helping people, then it pushes you to just keep going, even when things are not looking, good or positive or whatever. Having that as your forefront as the reason why you're doing it. Because there are some, there's some clients that you work with, in 3 months, and there's some clients you work with in over a period of 2 years.
True.
Right? And so if caring about helping them to get through that point is not your reason for doing it, you're going to kind of end that relationship because you feel like you're not getting out of it.
True.
What the financial aspect of it, right? And so caring about people is a huge part of being in real estate. And I think in business in general, because whatever business you have, you're serving people with it. Like when they say, the customer is always right or the client comes first, customer service is important. And the root of customer service is caring about people, the experiences with you, and all of that stuff. And that's something that I carry with me a lot. When I meet with someone, I'm just, I'm focusing on how can I help this person to get from where they are to where they want to be. They want to be a first-time home buyer, or they want to get a good price for their home. How can I help them to get to that point? So I think it's one of the first guiding principles for me.
Yeah.
And then secondly is, it's a lot of hard work, right? If you're averse to putting in the work and working hard, you won't be successful in any business venture, not only real estate. It's a lot of detail, it's a lot of work. You're spending a minimum of, a month to 2 months minimum with your client from the moment they meet with you, whether they want to buy a house or whether they want to sell their home. It takes the transaction alone. Let's just say even fast forward to get an accepted offer. The transaction alone takes a minimum of 6 months. 6 weeks. My apologies. Yeah. So it's a lot of hard work, a lot of detail. So if you're not ready to put in the work, you're not going to be successful. And I know that there's been instances where you're taking calls at 11 p.m., you're waiting on a deal, a form to come through before midnight so you don't, miss out on your, that offer. It's just very involved. And there's a lot of liability and legal aspects to it that you have to always be on top of and to be aware of, so you can protect your clients and you can protect yourself as well. So there is a lot involved. And then you have to be adaptable and you have to stay informed. Things are always changing in real estate. Your clients' needs are changing, your client situation are changing, your the policies that govern real estate, it's changing all the time. So staying informed, continuing education is extremely important. And so that's one of the things that in every business, if you want to stay ahead and if you want to have that edge, you have to be plugged into the new things that are coming up in your business. And continue to develop yourself and educate yourself and things like that. So that is another thing. And in terms of that adaptability, it's just being aware every deal or every transaction, every interaction, every client has unique needs and interests. Every deal, we call it, every deal has a unique DNA. And so being adaptable, you're working with a client that is very easygoing, and then you're at the same time you're working with a client that is, very high maintenance, that is very detailed. They want to know everything. So you're juggling so many different types of clients, and so being able to be adaptable in those situations is so important. So that is definitely one thing. And then building trust is also important. You want to be able to connect with the people that you're working with, and that is kind of related to caring about people and helping them, because people can sense if you're in it to just make it back and go away, right? And so building that trust is so important. From the minute you meet with them, you have to let them know that their interest and what they're looking for it's important to you as well. So that helps to build that trust. And then that way, when you build it to the point where you can make a recommendation to them that maybe they wouldn't have considered, but because you build that trust with them, they know that you have their best interest at heart, and they will follow those recommendations and things like that. So building trust is extremely important, and that is tied to my last principle, which is being honest. Honesty is so important. You want to be open to your client about everything that you're dealing with, keeping them informed in the whole process. Just being honest with them about everything you discover about the property, or your interactions with others regarding what you're looking for, because you owe them that duty of openness and communication and duty of loyalty, right? So you want to make sure that you're keeping them informed and you're being honest about what you're presenting to them. So those are the things that guide. I mean, there's more, but those are my top 5 that guide.
Looks like we need to have another podcast. Part two.
Yeah, part two. Yeah, I know.
But those are really strong principles, and I think you can apply it to any business.
Any business, any business.
Being trustworthy,
Really.
building trust, being honest.
Yeah.
Don't promise what you can't deliver.
Exactly.
Just because you want to make money.
Exactly.
Love the people, want to help the people, become adaptable.
Yeah.
And you always learn.
Yeah.
You always learn and put in the hard work.
Yes.
Those are really important things that I will even take to heart. I'm sure people at home are taking notes as well.
I hope so.
I know you have 1,000,001 things, but if you have one last thing you want to tell people watching now, new migrants, or even if they've been here for a while, and they're thinking, I wish I could start a business. It could be anything. It could be water. It could be anything. It could be landscaping.
Yeah.
What would you say to a new migrant thinking about business, but just looking at a cloud of confusion, don't know where to start?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would say, first and foremost, do your research. Actually, the first thing is really identify what you can see yourself doing a business in. Because if you're not passionate about the thing that you're wanting to pursue, like just because you want to start a business, if you don't like landscaping, for example, you don't want to start a landscaping business. Do you know what I mean? Or if you have the ability to develop love for that type of business, but first and foremost, it's just, be sure what you want to do. And then do a lot of research, like look into what it takes to start something like that, right? Talk to people who have done that or who are doing that right now. If you want to, become, I'm blanking on a business, but if you want to start your own, handyman business, do you know any handyman in your network? Or do you know anybody that might know a handyman? And, connect with that person. Mentorship is so important. Like I had a mentor, like my mother-in-law was my mentor and really said she is still my mentor. She's the one I go to if I have any questions or need any help. When I was going through the process, she was the one I was talking to, asking for advice and alongside doing my own research. And so, just do your homework about what you want to do and then plug into mentors and people who are doing that at the moment and, pick their brain. How did they get to where they are? When did they start? What do you need to get this started? Are there any courses you need to take? Are there any, certifications you need to get? And just have all that information ahead of you. And then, just take the plunge when you're ready. Because you will never feel ready. Even when I was, going full time into real estate, I was just, I don't know if I'm ready, but I was just like, if I don't do it, I will never do it. So I just, took that leap of faith, and it's been wonderful since.
There would never be a point where everything is perfect to start a business.
Exactly. You just have to.
Yeah. But, doing research is very strong.
Extremely important.
Very important.
Yeah.
Do your research, and then most of all, love what you do. If you don't love it, like you said, you hate landscaping. You want to go into.
You will end up being unhappy and miserable, right?
Exactly.
Because you're,
It's not what you love. Or you hate cooking.
And then you want to start a restaurant.
Love for what you do, passion. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
It's always fun. We talk about business and we talk about life. We talk about influences, and most of all, it's a victorious kind of show. At the end of the day, there's victory. There's win-win. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great having you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with us. Hope you got some notes taken down. Ignite Entrepreneurs is always going to bring you the best of the best of the best of the best of the best to share their experiences in business, because that's what we need. Some of these sessions, it's really hard to find a business person to sit with, to listen. They're very busy. But we bring this to you through this platform. So we hope it's very, very useful to you. We hope you find a lot of value. We hope you invite your friends to watch as well. And we hope you support this show. So thank you for watching. My name again is Daniel, and see you in the next show.
Yay!
Yay.